Hello, it is another demonstration of an example with the letter S, because I don't have enough examples yet about the usage of the letter S, where it is actually used as a measurement which is pretty confined, because we have the impression that when we use the letter S here at the widest, farthest away position that we can have in our perception, that it should be vague, it should be far away, it's just an after effect and so on. No, it can be used also as a measurement as well, and I will tell you why. Because it starts from the same positions, and it's because there is a balance between positions that you can use this letter S and understand why this letter S can be used also to narrow down our orientation upon it. So I use the word sum for it, sample and simple, which are all about measurements, and I will tell you how that works with the help of the theory that I have for you to show you. So more than once I have shown you my basic scheme, which is also based upon a numerical order, but it's also based upon an order in which there are three categories of focus, where the main focus is lying either on the immediate space directly before you, so that you use this as your own measurements, let's say. So you use your own measurements to give an order to the world, let's say. When we adapt a little bit in communication towards everything what is in a changing position, which is changing, you use of course the element of time, no longer the space, and within this region we are already adapting a little bit. The measurements at that point are in a momentual stage of change. The last category, I most often described it as, this seems to be vague because it's very far away, but actually it also has its own measurements, namely the measurements that are simply the measurements that are the physical and general conditions that we have around us, that are at that moment present, and that are available, and that are real. It is actually the theoretical context. While we have a personal context, and we use that all the time for within our reasoning, there is also a general context, and these are the rules, and so on. So this actually also has a kind of a measuring balance, of course. It's not just vague, as you have that with the letter G, for instance, how you associate with the letter G. And we also associated it quite often in the letter S, because it just simply says, okay, that's the leftover, and we can't measure it very well. But actually it also follows the rules of the measurements, and so there is a balance, and there is a balance how we can see our perspective, our way that we can measure, to what we can't measure, but which also has its own measurements. So how do we do that? So we have these three categories: the personal choice of measurements, then let's say, the deliberate adaptation in time, and then the environmental conditions, which also have their own measurements. So how do we have this balance? How do we show this balance? And how can we recognize this balance? In a couple of examples of words, of course. We have to match it to the reality. In the last category, it's the frames in which we are existing. It's the frames of what simply is surrounding us, and so on. So we will have some examples that will show you how we go from our own measuring of the world, and then the general conditions that are actually the true positions, which we at that point don't see, don't see the match, but we have to have a certain a certain psychological position also, that we deal with it, that we have to deal with it. And that's what the words are describing. And they say, actually, no, please do the match to the full reality. And that is the purpose of using the last couple of letters from the last category. So basically, we have three positions that are available to us, three different worlds even. So we have the worlds of the space around us, this where we measure the objects, where we think we are objective, but it's actually our personal space that we understand. Next, that's the first blue ball that you see there. It's the blue area, it's the physical area, and so on. And the next area is the surrounding area, what all surrounds. I already described it a few times as outside our body. We also have the arms and the legs, and we can move toward things, and so on. These helps us to measure the second kind of world that involves time and changes and so on. And then we have the last world, which is simply everything that surrounds us, but is not immediately available. It is what surrounds it. It can come from somewhere else, from someone else, from something unknown. It's simply what is. It's the, you can compare that the way how we talk is, we have the object that we think to know, but there's also the general subject, actually, that is a definition of its own. It's the definition. It's not our definition, it's the definition, where we of course have to adapt our personal vision towards it. So let's go to the first example. But before we do so, we have to realize that there are the three different worlds are, of course, they are interconnected, but they are also different ways to handle things. So we have this personal space, this blue part, the space of where you have the movement and the changes, and then the general space in general, where also are the general rules, let's say. So let's have the first example of sum and see where the letters are, and see how the balance between these letters exist, and how we can see them as a measurement. So we have sum, that's so it starts from the general rules, of course. So these are the fluctuations that exist, simple, our general rules. We have the of the U, that is the material that's a central point of reference, where we see what material that we can use. It's a starting point to see, like, okay, what material can we use? Some of it we can, some of it we can't. So that's the U. And then the M is what is extending, so you can even read it in the scheme where it is. Yeah, I have it written out. So the M is at the third position in the first scheme. It's about limitations. It's about growth of limitations. So it is the growth of the material and showing its limitations where it is. So how do we translate that into a word that we can understand? So I put all these things together. They hang still quite okay together, so that it's not too complicated to build them up like a puzzle. So that's quite okay. We have a couple of letters that are into our personal measurements, and one of the general rule. So we have the M here. I show you again. I explain it again. It's this growth towards with its own limits. The U, the starting point of growth, or the material, so what we can use. So together with S, U, and M, it's actually the definition of the limit of growth, or the S, it's the general, these are the general rules, of its own maximum, the M, of what I succeed to grow or to achieve. So but that's my choice. I know what I can take out, I put it to the maximum, and that's what I use as a definition of my growth. So that's the sum. It's basically, it is describing what is a sum. Now we choose a few extra words to just to say to let you see how it works with other words. So we have, of course, also sample and simple. With the the is basically what I measure, what I have, what the material world that I have, my material focus. And there's an extra letter there, the P, which is in the second category, which is the at that point also of that it gets myself out of the whole changes and time frames and so on. So at the end of the process, at the end of this whole scheme, something comes out, and mostly it is, of course, I can come to a definition. It's the end of the process, and I have my adaptation ready, and I can come to a definition. The L is then the material that I can take out. It's what is full grown material. It's in the middle of that scheme of the growth of material. So that's the L. So how do I translate it as sample? So I'll start from S, from the general rule. Focus upon the material A, the material that I find in a general rule. So I take out material with my personal vision even of what is material, what I can notice of material, what is M growing further out of it, what comes out of this whole process, and L can take out as material that I can use, is very easily a translation from what is a sample. I take out some material that I notice, and I see what I can take out of the process as material. That's the sample. It's actually there's a very easy way to describe it. It's different than simple. How can it be so different? Now the E is not focusing on the material, but it's focused on something else. And if I compare the S to the E, the S is the general rule, and the E is actually where the focus on where I can have a new adaptation, and I can have a renewal of a whole system, a renewal of whatever I have. I have found a general position in which I can start anew. So the letter S with E is actually a confirmation of the general rules into a new position. C also means yes, by the way, in some languages. It is also a confirmation then at that point of that the general rules can be found on a new position. Yes, I found it. And when I add it to simple isn't really so much different than a sample. And I can also say when I add it from the position, which is already a generalization possibility of that I can use more often. I will have, of course, a perfect sample of something simple that simply works from there. So I hope this was also a clear enough demonstration of how you can also use S as a measurement, and how you can behave towards the S that is not just fake and very far away. No, we can deal with these positions as well, that they are a reality which is not just far away, which is not just working there, but it's something that we can also deal with very consciously and see them as a set of rules that are that are set out there before us, and that we have to have a certain behavior towards it to see it in its right perspective. And I hope this made it a little bit more clear as an example of that aspect that I didn't show you before. Anyhow, thanks for watching. This was Gerald van Was. There's a list of words that of previously recorded examples at that short URL, and you can subscribe to the UpTi channel if you want more ideas, demonstrations of the theory of how to understand letter combinations. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Bye.